Good morning, y'all. I got to tell you, 100% honesty, things are crazy right now for me. Things are just, I know you've been there, but you know what? I ran out of toilet paper. And so I had to use old newspaper. The times are rough.
TMI, Tara, TMI.
I thought you were going to bring up the classifieds.
The times are rough, people. Good morning. Good morning, Daily Huddlers. It's Wednesday, where we talk all things communication and relationships, because we know that more effective communication builds better relationships, which builds a better life, right? Better business, better family, better community. And today we have a juicy question that I think at some point in anyone's life we've pondered, but we're going to dig deep into when to stay and when to walk away. But before we do that, I'm going to try to dust off my laughing at my own joke flaw. I have so much respect for those folks who can deadpan the face with a joke, but I've never mastered that. So I am going to kick it off this morning with my friend, Andrea. I want to know, Andrea, how are you and where are you this morning?
Tara, I am the way I say I am. And because of the question of today, I am a singer. Should I stay or should I go? Right? That's what I am. And what was the second? What am I grateful for?
No, I said, how are you? And
how
where are
yes.
you?
And I am right where I need to be here, which is right here.
And I am so grateful that. And speaking of being grateful, Fareed, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I am very well. I would love to know what you are grateful for and who might you hug today?
I'm grateful for another beautiful day. I'm grateful to see another beautiful day. And I'm going to hug myself today.
I could use a self-hug. Thank you for that reminder. Thank you so much. One final question from the man in green, Brother Tom. What time is it?
Well, Tara, the military is never late, so the time is now. No better time than now.
Thank you so much. It is 0903, maybe. I don't know.
Plus or minus, yes.
All right. I am wasting time with my silly antics, and I really am excited about this topic today. And it's a little bit personal and timely to my co-host and I and my treasured friend, Kathryn. So dig us in, Kathryn, to our question of the day.
Yeah, thanks, Tara. Well, the fun part about this, I guess you could say it's fun, is that this came about because of a conversation that we had. And Tara and I are planning a workshop this weekend, actually, on Saturday. And so we've been in the planning stages of that. And last week we had a conversation and we said, let's circle back later this afternoon about this one exercise. And we had a little bit of work to do on it in between. And I told her, I said, I may not be able to do it. I'll have the kids, but I'll let you know. The time was kind of coming, I think it was about 3:00. And I thought, I really don't want to have this call. I'm not in a great space. The morning, it was really expansive. I was really relaxed and open. And then the day happened. But I didn't call her and I didn't say I didn't want to have the conversation. I thought, you know what? I'll do it anyway. It's fine. We just need to go through this one thing. Well, we get on the call and it didn't go as I planned. I thought we were just going to boop, 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 get through this one exercise. And the energy went boop, 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 and we hit a wall. So the energy dropped. We actually had not a disagreement, differing opinions on just this one thing. It wasn't a big deal. It was just, we couldn't quite get where we were going. And what resulted was dissonance, frustration. The normal energy that we have together was flat. It was flat. It was gone, So, and then I tried to get off the phone and it kept going. And then it was just a mess, right? You have to be honest. It was a mess.
Oh, totally. We discussed it.
We did. So Tara calls me back the next morning and I knew I needed to just get off the phone. I just wasn't in a good space to recover in that moment. And she calls me back the next morning and we started talking about it. Like she said, I felt really sad when we got off the phone. And that touched me. And I knew that we would recover from that. I just knew it wouldn't be in that moment. So we talked through it. One, the ability to come back and address it. But before that, it's how do you know when to stay and when to keep at something and work? And when is it time to just cut your losses and walk away? And it could be cut your losses and walk away for good from a relationship, from a job. In this case, it was just from this one moment and the energy of this phone call. So we thought it'd be cool to dive into and dig into the topic based on that. Yeah, Tara, tell us a little bit about your experience of that phone call, because that was mine. What was yours?
Yeah, thank you. And I imagine that most folks have had moments like this in their lifetime, whether it's with a business person, a friend, a partner. And I have always been one to analyze, like when presentations are over, conversations, anything, I analyze things a lot. And so before I called Kathryn on the next morning, I gave a lot of thought to, what was going on there. And here's what I came up with in complete honesty. One, we were rushed. So I think we were feeling that the conversation needed to be efficient, and we both happened to be very task-oriented people. I go about it differently, but we have that high achiever mentality. Well, one particular topic we simply couldn't agree on. And I think that because I felt rushed, you weren't really in a headspace to do this. I'll tell you what seeped into it, and I think it was ego. I think we left leading with what we love about each other, and that's reverence. And reverence is actually defined as respect, wonder, and awe. And when we are at our best, we are leading with this respectful, curious, seeking, open, maybe I'm here today to have my mind changed kind of love.
Mm-hmm.
And in that moment, I'm going to blame partly insecurity. We all have it, right? I do. And what she was suggesting made me uncomfortable. I couldn't wrap my brain around it. So a little part of me wanted to be right. And so the conversation didn't go well, and we got off the phone. And just as Kathryn said, I felt sad because that's not us.
Yeah. Thank you, Tara. I love that you brought that, because when I reflected on it in terms of what we were going to talk about this morning, what do I want people to walk away with? And it's really exactly what you just described. It's how do we be so honest with ourselves that we know our part in any given situation? Like in the relationship really is what it's about. And in that moment, you're right. I wasn't curious. I was more about getting this done, and likely getting it done the way that I was suggesting, which is the opposite of wonder, awe, and curiosity. Mm-hmm. And I think that so often happens in relationship, that we get to talking, and it's, even if we don't realize it, we want our way. Or we just don't want to feel uncomfortable, so we don't want to get curious. Mm-hmm. Curiosity means there's an unknown. And I think often we end up not holding other humans with love and respect because we just want our own way with ego. Maybe it's not we want our own way, but it is ego that gets in the way. And right. So how do we in that moment go? Because when you came back the next day and told me very vulnerably, like, I was really sad, did not like ending that way. Like that really touched me. That takes a lot of guts to come back into a relationship and say, I don't feel good about this. How do we talk about it? And so I just started thinking, like, what if people more often were vulnerable, were honest with themselves instead of blaming? What would the world be like?
Right. Just as opposed to like continuing to bear down and win. Because when I first got off the phone call, I'm like, I was still like, why can't she see when this isn't going to work? And I mentioned something else. I mentioned ego, like wanting to be right, which is driven by insecurity.
Mhm.
And I'm super confident in this space and in this workshop, but you know what my insecurity is, and you tapped into it, and it just brought it to the left to surface, and you had no idea that you did that. But at some point you said, no, we're not doing that last exercise we talked about. We're going to do this one. And I said, oh, we're not. And you went, and my insecurity is my lack of organization. Like I have ADD,
Oh, okay.
I know I do.
Mhm.
And I wasn't looking at the document, and I hadn't reviewed it before we got on the phone. And so that just shone a big giant light on my insecurity, which is I'm much more creative and all over the place kind of person.
Mhm.
And when your insecurities are threatened, my point in sharing this is when your insecurities are kind of brought to the surface, that's when we tend to lead with ego. And that's what happened from my perspective.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And like you said, it's a hair trigger sometimes. It's just a quick like, and we don't even realize it. That's the self-reflection, I think, that I'm inviting us all to look at. It's like, oh, that was my part. I mean, that's beautiful that you can see that was my insecurity and admit it, publicly on the Daily Huddle, because that's the hard part. We don't want those parts of ourselves seen, and it does beg the question, like, because, the question really is how to know, like, how do we know when to say and when to walk away? Because you tried to keep me on that phone. I was like, Tara, I hear you. I need to get off the phone.
Yeah. And I was actually doing my makeup while we were talking. So I wasn't even looking at the document because I had to be on a screen or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
So one other thing I want to point out, and then I want to go back to the question, but I'll tell you something that is, I think, a powerful lesson for me. And I think we know this, but it was a beautiful reminder, is the second phone call when I said, please give me a call. And I said about how sad I was. And I'm not sure I ever said these exact words to you that I'm going to say now, but there's something so powerful about saying, sincerely, I'm sorry. I wasn't my best self. And I am sorry. And when we have the courage to say that, I think that's why our friendship continues to grow. And we can grow relationships in business and personal relationships by finding the courage to own your shit, right?
Yeah, there's almost nothing more powerful than that. To own up to who we are, all of ourselves, right? Or the good and the bad and the ugly. Because same here, I wasn't at my best. And yet it's funny, the beautiful thing for me is that I never for once doubted that you would not just love my whole self. I just knew we would recover, anyway, that makes me emotional. It is so true that if we're to love ourselves that way and we're able to share that love with other people in their fullness, wherever they are, it really gives the opportunity for love to be born and for us to spread that love and joy wherever we go.
Yes. And don't you love me more because you trust me than you would love me because I'm an expert in something?
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. I was about to say I couldn't love you more, but of course.
No, but we want to come over as like the expert and we have the answers and we know, and that's not what builds trust.
Right.
Credibility may be on a topic.
Sure.
Trust is, I know that you're going to bring your full self and you're going to admit when you're wrong or admit when you're worried and admit when you know and say when you think I think I'm right about this. I mean, you're going to bring all the parts of Kathryn. I trust that.
Yeah. And I think that's vulnerability. We've talked about that a lot, how that does breed trust, when we're in conversation with, and especially with like clients or potential clients, to just, even because that happens to me too. Somebody will tell me something, a client, and then the next time it'll come back up and I'll know I'm not remembering something. And they'll say, don't you remember? We talked about this. And that's when I say, I'm so sorry, I didn't remember that, but thank you for reminding me, as opposed to, oh yeah, of course. Right. I got that. It's just,
yucky.
yeah. And it's just the honest, like, no, I'm not perfect. And I didn't remember that. And,
and something else, I think we've danced around this, but I said it to you on the phone call the next morning. And we have to remind ourselves too, when we do disagree, we don't want to turn around and just agree and go along to keep the peace. But we also need to remember that when we disagree, it is not personal, and it's so easy to take it personally.
Yeah,
And I think where hurt comes in. And when we do that, is that the time to walk away?
that's a good point. Yeah, I do want to get back to the question because it is like, how do you know? But that's so interesting because, you know, I could have taken that conversation personally, but you clearly just said it's about me and my insecurities. You know, it wasn't about me. I just happened to trigger something in you that, you know, showed up. So it's a good question. Like, how do we know? Because if it's just that we feel bad or we want to walk away, we'd be walking away from relationships or jobs every day, every 6 months, you know, depending on what's going on. I honestly think it keep coming back to the ego piece. If we're honest with ourselves, if we know why we're there, you know, we know what's going on. I think it's important to remember the bigger why, because I thought about the ego thing this morning when I was thinking about the show, and it's like, sometimes I want to do that thing. You know, when you get an email and you immediately want to respond and you're just like, oh, it's like
Fire fingers.
angry
Yep.
typing. Every time that happens, I'm like, don't do it, Kathryn, don't do it. And I'm like, but I really want to. And it's like, but I know that what I really want will not come from that reaction. So it's how in the moment do we keep in mind, remind ourselves, what do we really want? What do I really want from this workshop? A phenomenal experience for the women who are coming, for us to have a fantastic time. Not to be right. I don't care about that. Like, you know, so then, you know, if I can step back and go, that's what I really want. Will being right here, right now, get me that? No.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I can get really honest with myself and go, okay, what's the reaction I want to have now?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
So I would love to hear just from you, straight from your thoughts and heart, and then I'll share, and then I want to hear what other people have to say. But if you had a little like guide or a checklist or something of when you decide, okay, I'm going to walk away from this, or I'm going to stay, I'm going to be in it. I mean, what's your big takeaway for you?
Well, I think the question really comes up. I mean, if you're having a great time and you're feeling good and all things are aligned, answer simple.
Clear.
When things get tough is really what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's check in with myself. Is this something ego? What I ask myself is, what do I need to say right now?
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I had that happen yesterday. I'm in a conversation. I wanted to get off the phone and I thought, I'm going to get off the phone and go talk to somebody else about this. That's not how I want to be. I need to address this with this person right now. So I think the question is, check in with myself. How do I want to be in my higher self? What is my higher self wanting? And that's when some of those things start to emerge. Like, this is how I want to be. Mm-hmm. This is my integrity. Not getting off the phone and going to talk about somebody, talk about somebody to somebody else. Yeah. Does that help?
Totally. And so I'm wondering, I just go back to our one example, but you know how you want to be, but maybe in that moment, you didn't have what you needed. You didn't have the right energy or the right environment to be your best self. So right. Don't you think I should have just let you get off the phone?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, you should have. You definitely should have. In that moment, I guess that's the good point. Like, I know how I wanted to be, and I knew I could not get there in that moment. I didn't have the resources. That's why I wanted to get off the phone. It wasn't like, get me out of here. Mm-hmm. You know, that was yesterday. I did not want to deal with that situation with that person. It was, I don't have the resources to be the person I want to be right now. So I need to step away. Whatever's going to come out right now is not going to be productive. So that's how I know, you know, or knew in those two situations. Yeah.
Perfect. Yes. But you don't walk away forever just for an evening.
Right. Very different. And that's a different conversation too. How do you know when to walk away forever? How do we know, you know, perhaps a topic for a different day, but you know, that in a relationship that I need to step away and now I need to, you know, be done.
So I guess I'm thinking it like, if I could turn the clock back, what either one of us could have said is, you know what, and you actually, I think you did say, I probably shouldn't have had this phone call. Mm-hmm. I wasn't in the right space for it, and we should have ended it. But what I started thinking about after I hung up as it relates to this question is, and you're right, walking away from someone forever is a different conversation. That means that's a toxic relationship that you can't repair on your own, and you've tried. But in this particular situation where I feel like we have a beautiful relationship that continues to grow, I asked myself why I was so upset by it. And I knew the answer immediately. It is because how much I treasure you. To me, that's when you sure walk away temporarily, but you just don't leave it alone. When you care about a relationship enough that you want it to be in your future, maybe it's a work relationship that's super important to you, your career, or it's a personal relationship that you treasure. To me, that's when, you might walk away for a break, but you don't just like, I'm so glad we revisited that. You know what I mean? Like you don't walk away for good. So that's my takeaway. And what I had hoped to share to the listeners is ask yourself how much this relationship means to you, and then go back when you're in the space to nurture it the way it needs to be nurtured.
It's so true. That's what takes the real guts.
Not fun, but
Worth it.
grow. Yeah. So I
Let's
wonder.
open up the questions. I want to hear what other people are getting out of this and what they have to say.
Yeah. Or if anyone disagrees, I'm always about that.
I actually enjoyed our conversation, guys. Relationship. So I'm handling relationship with four different people at the same time. I got my wife, my daughters, and my mother. There's 4 different relationships, okay, at once. And I heard what Tara said, the insecurity and one of the things that actually come all the time for me is my insecurity about failure, about not much of my failure, but failure, especially on the women, on my girls, on my daughters. Okay, so I have 2 daughters, highly dating age, beautiful girls, so they're on a dating scene. You got one that is heavily dating, one that's not, and then I'm kind of really, okay, so what's in the market and what are you guys seeing? And so I'm like, okay, so I have the protective father that kind of really give the insight of what's the dating scene look like, but yet they have a complete different approach about what I'm seeing. But yet, I present the cases or the scenarios as possibilities that I have experienced and I have seen, which really show my insecurity toward who they coming with or who they go out with and so forth. So I like what I got from the conversation is my insecurity. In that and I guess to them I never showed this vulnerability that this is where I'm coming from. So that's what I'm kind of, it's really clean to come up with this, the way you guys really chop it out, like put it right on here, and it's so open, it's so clear, it's so so you remove the murkiness out of it, the mud out of it, so it's really nice. So
Thank you, Ron.
I'm gonna try that recipe. Hey, I'm insecure about what you guys are bringing home, who you guys going out with, and that's why I say a certain day, because I guess for me it's like I tend to really put things blunt out there. I'm like, this is it, this is what's gonna happen, this is and this is based on my experience, but it's not true, because I cannot say this is really but based on my past experience, this is what has happened. So
well, that's great, Ron. Thank you for sharing that. I would be excited to hear how that works for you, that you use the vulnerability to bring that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me too. I was thinking, you can tell your daughters and wife and mother, or was it mother or mother-in-law?
Mother, yeah.
Yeah, they can thank us later.
Yeah.
I love it. Thank you, Ron. Thank you for sharing. Chase.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
It never ceases to amaze me how certain things come up at the right time on the right day. So I get up at 5 a.m. in the morning for an hour and a half, and I do a series of things in my morning.
Mhm.
And this is one of the books that I'm reading right now. Have you seen this book before?
Mm-mm. Is it oneness?
Oneness.
Oneness.
Yeah. You will not believe what I read today. And I'm going to give you a piece of it because it's so good. Wow. Okay, here it is. Those who put the full force of their will behind the suppression of the best interests of another serve only to reinforce the polarity that exists between you. In doing so, you widen the rift that keeps all of humankind in a state of separation from each other and from the unification of oneness toward which all creation now strives. In continuing to act out the habitual patterns that reinforce your might makes right mindset, you thwart the very momentum toward which you strive. You cannot hope to achieve peace and harmony in the collective without applying the true essence of that concept in your interpersonal relationships on an individual basis. In scrutinizing your own position on a given issue, you are able to recognize the area in which you are directed by the motivations of ego to assert your will over that of another. When you take a closer look at natural solution ultimately presents itself that allows both parties to honor the expression of their true essence without causing injury or harm to anyone. That optimal solution is the one that must be sought on all levels in order that the vibrational pitfall of compromise be circumvented and true peace be achieved.
Oh, wow.
Whoa. I mean, like, you know, this kind of the one sentence that actually came after it says, for energy that is thwarted rather than transformed will only resurface with renewed force in another form, regardless of how carefully you have crafted the terms of your half-hearted contractual agreements. It's like, clean this up or it's coming back triple. So what do you want to do?
Right.
Clear
Oh my gosh.
or what? And I don't go to any particular page in the book. I literally go, and I read 3 or 4 pages, and that was what I read this morning.
Crazy. Wow.
Right?
Synchronicity at its best. I love what it's saying about, it's like keep your side of the street clean. Clean with your intentions, and how ego can step in the way. There's something about that, because that's exactly right. When Tara and I are aligned, it's like, no, suppression. No, that doesn't even enter into the space. It's how do we build each other up, all of that. So it's beautiful to hear that. Yeah, that's great.
It's really amazing. And we all know we are right within our paradigm. That's what makes it tricky. You're like, I am right. I'm right. And the other person's like, I'm right. And they're in their same place until they go, oh, wait a minute. Hold on.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it comes to you because you were able to look at it. That's all. It's simple. Like, let me move this out the way. Oh, shoot. There's that thing right there. And it's
a perspective.
That's very powerful. Very powerful. So no reason that came up twice today.
Yeah.
I mean, no mistake, I should say.
That's awesome. Thank you, Chase. Thank you so much. So good to be with all of you today. It's amazing to be able to talk about bring in life as it is and as it happens, vulnerably and honestly, and then to see how we can learn and grow from that, and then to share it with all of you. It's really beautiful. So thank you, Tara, for being on this journey of vulnerability and transformation and love. So we're going to end today, as we always do with our tenets, and we're going to have to start with that love. I mean, love. Y'all just think about loving all of those around you. Go into a difficult situation, think of that person with love and their highest self. Laugh out loud. It's always fun to find ways to laugh at ourselves when you run out of toilet paper. Stress less. Eat mostly plants. The world will thank you and your body will thank you. You'll have energy after you get those 7 hours of sleep to give of yourself to the world and move that body. Thank you, everybody, for being with us on the Daily Huddle, and we will see you next week and tomorrow and every day in between. Thank you.
Thank you,
Tara.
Stan. Thank you, everyone, for your contributions.
you.
We love
Thank
Thank you,
all.
ladies.
Thank you, everyone.
One love,
Thank
guys.
you.
One love.
Bye.